I want to talk about something that I think isn't spoken about enough. And there's a lot of information out there available for people who have experienced childhood trauma, and specifically people who have experienced childhood trauma that has fallen under the category of like severe abuse and severe outward abuse. So there's a lot of modalities for healing out there for people that have experienced things like sexual, physical, or emotional abuse as children, how to recognize that, and how to start healing from that. So, what I want to talk about, though, that I don't think that people talk about enough, is that the childhood trauma doesn't just end there. It doesn't start there and it doesn't end there. There are far more ways to experience trauma than culturally or societally are accepted. And I'm gonna say something that might be a little controversial, but I believe it's true. And it is that every single human on this planet right now is traumatized, or was traumatized and worked through their trauma. But nobody is nobody is free, is exempt from experiencing trauma. Trauma comes in all shapes and sizes, and even something that could not be traumatic to one person, to another person could be deeply traumatic. It's how our own energy, individual energy, interacts with a situation or experience. And that's going to be unique for each and every person. So I want to talk a little bit about the trauma, some of the trauma that I experienced as a child. And this trauma actually only very recently, I'm going to be 35 soon, came into my awareness that it was even trauma at all. So in over the past couple years, I think maybe a handful of times or more, I've said to people when talking about my childhood, one of the things that I will say often is that I can't really remember a lot of my childhood, but I would say I think that I was alone a lot. I don't really remember being with other people too often. And I've tried recording this video a few times, but I actually have been able to work through some of my trauma when recording this, because it comes back up, that trauma of really recognizing that my guides recently came through. So that's what I'm trying to say, is my guides recently came through and they said to me, they showed me, they helped me understand that it was deeply traumatizing for me to be so alone as a child. I experienced this, I had this experience of being alone, and that was something that I chose. So I came in at a time when my siblings, I was the youngest of four, and my brother was just starting to exhibit the mental illness that he had. So my brother was severely mentally ill, and it was actually, I think it was never fully diagnosed. We don't know exactly what he had. He did have some diagnoses, but I believe it could have been schizophrenia. I'm not sure. But he died. So my brother, but he just started to show some of, and he had some very severe symptoms, and my mother was not equipped to handle my brother. She was not emotionally equipped to be able to handle that type of those needs, his needs. She couldn't handle his needs. She could not give him what he needed to thrive, and he suffered greatly, and she suffered greatly, and my mother was not able to be present with me because she was so distracted by my brother. I do believe that she was more present with my siblings, but she was not present with me. I have no memories of my mother playing with me. This is important. I say this for a reason. I have no memories of my mother playing with me. None. And I mean that, none. And I have no memories of my father playing with me either. My father was also alternatively different from my mom. My father was severely neglected by his parents. And again, this will be important So my father was severely neglected by his parents, and it was the kind of neglect that's socially acceptable, where it's children should be, that sort of 1950s 1960s mentality of children should be seen and not heard. And my father was largely completely ignored by his parents as a child, and I'm sure that there's more to that. I'm sure that there's a reason that his parents did that, and I recognize that has been happening within my lineage for a very long time. So you see, so my father was neglected as a child, and then that's passed down and to one or all of, I don't think that my other siblings experienced it as severely as I did, because while they didn't have, I don't think any of my father was very present with any of them. I think my mother was more present. So I was really the most alone, and that's what I remember from my childhood the most is being alone. Being alone a lot of the time, and that was my core wound, my original wound. And although that I say I forgive my parents and I understand, I cannot say that I have to admit the truth. And the truth is that it was traumatizing for me. It was deeply traumatizing for me to be alone all the time as a child, especially as a very young child. And I think that it really was most intense when my oldest sister, who's 12 years older than me, she was I was very close to her, and she left for college when I was 6. So I think that, like, between the ages of 3, when my brother's mental illness was really severe, that's when 3 is when, like, we had a big family shift, and 6. So I think those are the ages where I was really alone, a lot of the time. And I felt like there's something wrong with me. I felt like I internalized a lot of these feelings of just like, there is something wrong with me. Nobody wants to be around me, and I'm alone in this world. And I've carried those feelings with me my entire life of I'm alone in this world, and no one wants to be around me. And it's so interesting to say that as you know, a almost 35-year-old woman, and I have friends and I know that people love me, but you know, that's the truth of this trauma, is as self-aware as you want to be, you cannot deny the hurt and broken child that is within you. And if that hurt and broken child still exists within me, and that little girl that was left alone all the time, and that's what my guides brought into my awareness. They showed me that it was okay to acknowledge that trauma and that pain of being alone all the time, being completely alone as a little child. Okay, so anyway, so acknowledging that trauma, understanding that trauma, and then what? I'm gonna keep on carrying on that trauma until I heal it, because I did not have parents that were present with me. And in turn, although I've come into parenting and went through parenting with so much self-awareness, right? I'm an incredibly self-aware person, and I've grown in my self-awareness, and I've always had a level of self-awareness to me ever since starting parenting. So I really thought that going into parenting, that I was going to really be able to do a great job, that I understood trauma, I saw my parents' blind spots, I saw what I could do different, and I wanted to do it, and I knew I could do it differently, and I was excited, and I wasn't prepared for my own trauma coming back in full force when I was a parent. And that trauma has been deeply confusing for me, because it's been almost painful at times for me to try to be present with my children, because there's so much because I've been suffering from so much judgment with it, that that I'm just like, why can't I be present with them? Why can't I just enjoy being with my kids? Like, why is it so painful for me to do this? And it wasn't until recently that my guides so gently and so lovingly showed me that I had been so deeply neglected as a child, that I started to really understand it's we are all at the mercy of our trauma. And and that trauma can also be called karma. It can also be called um, the trauma that you experience is the karma that you have experienced in other lives, and it's triggered in this. It will be triggered in this life, and whatever life you're in, it will be triggered in your life, in whatever form you need as a child. So that's what I believe. So, so the trauma is also the karma. It's also what has been passed through the family lineages, and will continue to be passed on until we become aware of it and actively shift it. And how do we actively shift it? We actively shift it through intention. Intention is probably one of the most important aspects. Through intention and through bringing it into the light of our own awareness. That's really what it is, bringing it into our awareness, gently and lovingly. I have judged myself for years for not being able to be present with my kids. I have been pained and just in so much pain, like trying to solve and heal the disharmony in my life, and judging myself the entire time. Like I'm so mad at myself that I'm not being more present with my children, but it's so painful to be present with them. And then in the most gentle and loving way, I'm shown that it's not my fault. And I think that although accountability is needed, and although it's awareness and is needed, like we can't deny that these things happen. Like I can't deny that I haven't been present with my children I've tried, and I've been somewhat present with my children, but I have not been fully present with my children. I have not given them the gift of my full, deep presence in the way that they deserve and in the way that I want to give to them. I haven't been able to be the parent I want to be to them. And it's because I have been at the mercy of my own trauma that's been running my life in the background. It's been dictating to me telling me that I'm not worthy. Right? Like I have like this, I came in and I had both this mother and this father wound, this absent father, and this mother that was too emotionally distraught and stressed out and frazzled to even notice what's going on with me in my life. And those are the people that I then took on that energy of me being my father's, distant, cold, that sort of energy of just non-presence. And I also took it on the energy of the frazzled, neurodivergent human, the fucked up nervous system, right? My father also has a fucked up nervous system, but I feel those two energies of my parents that I took on and have been carrying them. And so I'm coming into this time of release, and I'm just, like, this is the healing journey that I'm on. Like, I feel like there's so many times when I've posted these things, and I think that to myself, like I'm making my life look like it's all sunshine and rainbows, but it's absolutely not. These healing is painful, and it's raw, and it's really having to find all of the ways in which we are judging ourselves, because when we judge ourselves, we hold ourselves in condemnation, and we will hold others in that same energy unless we become aware of our own judgments. And it's also about becoming aware of the judgments, and also becoming aware of the trauma, and allowing ourselves to understand that we did experience trauma, that even the little things like not being paid attention to matter. They matter a lot. and they will be the story that runs our lives until we decide to change that story. Thank you for being present with me during this.